The January transfer window is now open, meaning that your favourite side is free to go sign whoever they want in this window to boost their chances in the second half of the season. However, it is of course vitally important that they don't just sign any random player, it's got to be the right guy. So let me tell you who the right player is for your club this window. Arsenal find themselves in the most open title race that we have seen in the Premier League for a few years now, but if they really want to cement themselves as one of the favourites, they need a striker who can put the ball into the back of the net on a regular basis, but they need to be more than that as well. We know that Gabriel Jesus plays a really important role for Arsenal with his link play and his pressing, but he simply doesn't score enough, so Arsenal need to replace those attributes and get a goal scorer. I present to you Evan Ferguson from Brighton. Now this would not be cheap by any means, and this is quite an ambitious January signing. However, that is the cost of trying to win a Premier League title. 6 goals from an equivalent of around 10 90-minute matches in the Premier League so far this season. Evan Ferguson is one of the best players, the best young strikers in the Premier League. We know that he does the pressing work playing for Brighton, and we also know that he is an excellent passer. This is a young striker who could lead your line for the next 10 years. Like I said, it would be expensive, but I would do it if I was Arsenal. Aston Villa are another side who need a striker. Now that might sound like a weird thing to say because Ollie Watkins has been in such good form this season. However, I look at that Villa squad and think one Watkins injury and their chances probably fall right off. They need themselves a backup striker. Someone who is willing to play less minutes but can do a job when they come into the side. Guirassy from Stuttgart, I'm sure you guys have all heard of him this season thanks to his 17 goals in the Bundesliga so far this season. Massively overperforming his expected goals. This is a great striker in a real hot streak at the moment. And apparently he would only cost about £17.5 million, which is really cheap for a Premier League side to go spend that on a good backup striker. Of course he isn't quite the same style as Ollie Watkins, however he is still big, around 6 foot tall, very strong and importantly an excellent finisher. We're not looking for a striker here to start every game, but should Ollie Watkins need a break or get injured, Aston Villa need backup. In my opinion, Guirassy would be the perfect striker for that role. In recent weeks, Bournemouth have been one of the form sides in the Premier League. However, there is a slight issue with their starting 11 in my opinion, and that is the fact that Ryan Chrissy is often finding himself at the double pivot. Not really his best position. In my opinion, Bournemouth could upgrade in this area, and I would go for Maxime Lopez, the Sassuolo player currently on loan at Fiorentina. Now, of course, he's on loan, so there is a slight block there really. However, I would be really tempted to approach Sassuolo and try and give them whatever they want basically to terminate that loan and get him on a permanent deal. He is an excellent little diminutive midfielder who is used to playing in a high pressing system, but importantly he is so good on the ball. Press resistant, agile and a high volume midfielder. Someone who can dictate the play and really get things going for that Bournemouth side. And who knows, in a few years I reckon they could make themselves quite a handsome profit. So in my opinion, Maxime Lopez is the man for Bournemouth this window. With Brentford, things are a little less straightforward. Do they need a striker? Probably not, because Ivan Toney will return and I don't think he will leave in January. So therefore I think they need an upgrade in midfield, and I think Angel Gomez of Lille could be a really good little player for them. Of course, formerly playing for the Manchester United Academy, he used to be more of an attacking midfielder, a free roaming attacker. However, these days he is much more of a deep lying playmaker, excellent on the ball, incredibly press resistant, and in my opinion one of the best players at the European Under-21 Championships last summer. He was really good in that tournament, and playing in a 3-man Brentford midfield should allow to make up for some of his, his smaller stature, his weaknesses as a player. In terms of on the ball, he's an incredible passer, and I think he could play quite a similar role to what Christian Eriksen did just a couple of seasons ago. Angel Gomez probably wouldn't be the cheapest player in the world, but I really do think it would be worth Brentford pursuing that deal in this window to improve their midfield and their ability on the ball in some of the smaller games. When it comes to Brighton, I'm looking for 2 main bits of criteria. A young South American player who they can probably turn a profit on in a few years' time. And the best out there for that role at the moment, in my opinion, is Andre of Fluminense, linked with a host of big clubs at the moment. I think Brighton would actually be the best move for him. Less pressure, time to adapt to the Premier League, but of course an incredibly gifted player. Again, press resistant and a metronome on the ball in possession. He loves to play pass and move football, exactly what Brighton love to do. He is a high volume midfielder. and alongside Baleba in a double pivot at Brighton, I think that could be a really nice young midfield. Now again, he's probably going to cost around £20 million, and I am confident that you can turn that round for a massive profit in a few years' time. But of course, importantly, in the short term, you're going to get results, and you're going to get performances from Andre at the heart of that midfield. Strength, hustle and bustle, defensive work, high pressing ability, but importantly, incredible ability on the ball retention and passing range. What more could you want? Andre, for me, is the midfielder that Brighton need. Burnley currently really find themselves in a bit of a sticky situation, and they really need experience in their back line at centre-back. They need an experienced Premier League player there. The problem is, to get that, it costs a lot of money, and Burnley can't really afford to spend a lot of money because chances are they will go back down to the Championship in the summer, so they're going to lose a load of money. So it's quite a difficult situation for Burnley, and they're probably looking at more of a loan deal. You're looking for an experienced centre-back who is probably out of favour with his club at this moment in time. Eric Dyer of Tottenham Hotspur. Ange Postecoglou just doesn't fancy him at Spurs. He's playing Ben Davies and Emerson Royale at centre-back ahead of him. Eric Dyer to Burnley makes a lot of sense in my opinion. He's a really experienced player. He knows the Premier League. He can play on the ball like Burnley want him to, but importantly, he's a tough, strong, physical defender who knows the league. Again, it's probably not the most exciting signing for Burnley to make, but they can't really afford to be exciting right now. They need an experienced player to give them a chance of staying in this division, and I think Eric Dyer could be a real good bit of business. Potentially a player who costs you very little because it's a loan deal, but he could be that difference maker to keep you in the Premier League. Now with Chelsea, you have pretty much the picking of every single player in the world because they will happily spend a ridiculous amount of money on any player at any time, as we saw last January and also in the summer. But for me, despite all the money they've spent, the thing they are still lacking is a ready-made goal scorer. Nicholas Jackson is doing very well, and I think he's a great young player, but he's not the complete package just yet. You want the complete package, you go spend the big money on Victor Osimhen from Napoli. Now this would be big money because he only recently extended his contract. However, he is always falling out with the owners and the board at Napoli, and I think it's time he makes a move. You want a proven goal scorer, someone who is going to terrorise defences and be a massive outlet in transition. Victor Osimhen is your man, and his ability to get a goal from literally nothing could take Chelsea to the next level and get them into those European spots in the second half of the season. Now for Crystal Palace, it's quite difficult. They've got themselves a really good goalkeeper, a really good centre-back pairing, and their attack is really, really exciting. However, they continue to kind of falter and stutter in the league, so I found it quite difficult to improve their squad. However, at fullback, Nathaniel Klein is ageing, not getting any younger, and certainly not getting any better on the football pitch. So we need a good defensive fullback, but also someone who can play on the ball. Well, we're going to go back to Lille. Bafode Diakite is a brilliant young right-back. God knows how much he would cost, not sure. However, I do think he is a player which could come in the second half of the season and really be excellent. This is a guy who could quickly become one of the best young fullbacks in the Premier League. Again, if you're looking to turn a profit in the next 12 to 18 months, this is the guy you go and get right now. He is so good on the ball, but defensively, importantly for Roy Hodgson's side, he is very, very solid. Good in the 1v1 battles, physical, strong, just under 6 foot tall. For me, he ticks all of the boxes. This might be a little bit of a reach for Crystal Palace to go get him, because he really is very good, but it's a transfer that I would like to see happen in January. Next up is Everton, and for me there is a glaring issue in their squad, and that is the box crashing role. Abdoulaye Doucouré often plays as a box crasher just behind Dominic Calvert-Lewin, however he simply doesn't have the quality. A player who does have the quality, Jobe Bellingham in the Championship, currently playing for Sunderland. Of course, the brother of Jude Bellingham, the pressure on Jobe to perform is absolutely massive. But from what I've seen in the Championship, he looks like a very similar player to his brother. Tall, strong, physical, and happy to compete in duels, but also get himself high in the box. He isn't a player who wants to drop deep and constantly be involved on the ball. He wants to get forward and affect both boxes. Jobe Bellingham looks like a really good player for Everton to get. Now, Everton do have a bit of a financial crisis at the moment, which is why I have gone for a Championship target. Someone who could come in a little bit cheaper. Again, you're going to make a profit in a few years, and I think he could be a really good buy for Everton. I would love to see this happen.
So before we continue into the video, a quick shout out to today's video sponsor, JerseyFIFA.com, the home of all of the greatest football kits. Whether that be the new latest releases or the old classic ones like this, Jersey FIFA has something for everyone, and now you can check it out yourself using the link in the description down below. And also make sure to use code JerseyFIFA for 10% off when you order.
Now for Fulham, rather than improving the current squad, it's more about replacing what I think they will lose, and that is João Palhinha, one of the best ball-winning midfielders in the Premier League. He's tall, he's strong, he's brilliant in the tackle, his reading of the play is great, and he loves intercepting the ball. He is crucial for Fulham, but I do think he will move, either now or in the summer. Fulham need a replacement, but they need quite a cheap replacement, perhaps someone from a lower league, but also with Premier League experience. Wilfred Ndidi of Leicester. Now, Ndidi has had a brilliant season for Leicester, massively improving his ability on the ball in the Championship. However, I do think he could be tempted by a move to the Premier League. Fulham aren't going to go down this season, so this is an opportunity for Ndidi to move to a stable, steady Premier League club, where he would be one of the most important players, and of course he ticks all the boxes of João Palhinha. A ball winner, tall, strong, more athletic than João Palhinha, good at intercepting the play, and like I said, improving his ability on the ball. This would see Fulham make a net profit here and give them money to spend in the summer on another player. So I think Ndidi returning to the Premier League, replacing João Palhinha at Fulham, could be a really nice bit of business. Now for Liverpool, it's a bit of a weird one to predict. Do they need a left back, or is Andrew Robertson about to return from injury? Do they need a new right back so Trent can invert into midfield? I'm not too sure. In my opinion, I think they need a 6, a ball winner at the heart of the midfield. Now, of course, this ball winner has to be someone who is intense. Liverpool play with a crazy high press, a counter press. They are so intense, active all the time, putting the opposition under pressure. So they need someone who can tick those boxes, but also on the ball is going to bring a bit more composure. I think Endo has done a good job at Liverpool so far, but they need that star quality. Someone who is affordable also though. Florentino Luis at Benfica. Currently a little bit out of favour in the starting 11, he doesn't play every week, but for me he represents one of the best young ball winners in all of Europe, and importantly, incredible on the ball quality. He's not someone who wants to dribble up the pitch constantly and things like that. He keeps his game nice and simple, sitting at the heart of the midfield, spraying passes from side to side, sitting just in front of his centre-backs, and that would provide a lot of protection for the likes of Van Dijk, Konate, Quansah, whoever it is at centre-back. Florentino Luis would provide them with a lot of protection, but also on the ball quality. This is a no-brainer for me. I think Florentino Luis is one of the best young ball-winning midfielders in all of Europe. I don't know why more teams aren't after him. Liverpool, go and get him. Now, Luton are probably the hardest team in the Premier League to try and buy for, basically because they have very little money. But they need Premier League experience, and they need a centre-back. With their captain, of course, unavailable at the moment, they need a new centre-back. How do you find a cheap, experienced centre-back? You go around and you look for someone who is out of favour. Courtney Horse at Aston Villa might well be a good option. Premier League experienced, about 28 years old now, standing at around 6'2" tall, he could be what Luton need. Now again, it's not the most exciting signing in the world, but perhaps you would have said the same about Ross Barkley or Lokonga, and those two have been vital to Luton's push so far this season. Someone like Courtney Horse brings Premier League experience to that defence, ball playing ability, left-footed. I think it could be a good bit of business, whilst not the most exciting. Manchester City, how do you improve the best squad in the Premier League? You give it a little bit of depth. Now the question is, where do City need depth? Well, for me there is two main positions. They need a Rodri backup. The second that Rodri comes out of the side, Manchester City's form drops off massively. But also they need John Stones backup, because again, he's injury prone at the moment, and every time he comes out of the team, performance levels dip. So who can play as a holding midfielder, but also as a centre-back who steps into midfield? Giorgio Scalvini of Atalanta, one of the most exciting young defenders in world football. But I label him as a defender. I'm not too sure he is a defender. He's really one of those players who is borderline a 6, borderline a centre-back, which actually perfectly ticks the box of what Manchester City need. Now, this wouldn't be the cheapest deal in the world, but luckily we are talking about Manchester City. They have a lot of money, and I do think they need this extra little bit of depth with a lot of injury problems at the moment. That bit of depth behind Rodri and John Stones, plus here, you're getting pure quality, by the way. Scalvini is a great young player, great on the ball, good in the air, a good young defender, but also in a City squad where they've got a lot of quality, there wouldn't be massive pressure straight away. I would really like to see this transfer happen. On to Manchester United, and we have all seen the news over the past week or so. They want a backup striker, someone with a lot of experience. But personally, I'm not inspired by someone like Choupo-Moting or Timo Werner or Marlin. They're not the most inspiring signings in my opinion. Someone I would much rather see is Taremi of Porto. I've said it for a long time now, I don't need to go in depth here. Taremi represents excellent business, around £20 million, about 6 foot tall, but an incredibly good player on the ball, a linking striker, something a little bit different to Rasmus Højlund, someone who wants to drop into the pocket, play passes to his teammates, play through balls, that really could get the best out of someone like Marcus Rashford. But also at his age, I don't think he would be too worried about spending some time on the bench. So when Rasmus Højlund does need a rest, rather than moving Marcus Rashford out of position, United can just put Taremi up front. That sounds like a much better bit of move, really. You've got a much better squad there. Much better balance to the team. So Taremi to Manchester United, I think it's a move which genuinely could happen. The rumours on it have gone a little bit cold recently. But if I was Manchester United, I think this is the experienced striker that I would be looking for. Because it's not just a loan deal. It's someone who could actually be useful for 18 to 30 months, really. In my opinion, Newcastle need to do more to get the best out of their very best player in the squad, and that is Bruno Guimaraes, for me one of the best midfielders in the world. Currently playing as a 6 for Newcastle, but for me, it's not his position. His best position is as a left-sided 8, so Newcastle need a new number 6. Calvin Phillips. Out of favour at Manchester City, Calvin Phillips could be the perfect signing. The only concern would be his current lack of sharpness, really, due to not playing a lot of football. But when he is sharp, when he is firing, he's an incredible long passer of the ball. Someone who can drop deep spray passes all day long. He's very, very good on the ball. And in my opinion, these days, he's genuinely underrated as a footballer. If needed, he could play as an 8 if Eddie Howe really does want to keep Guimaraes as a 6. Calvin Phillips does have the energy and the motor and the engine to play as a number 8 or a number 6 for this Newcastle side. And his on-the-ball ability could be something which just takes them up to that next level. They need to get European football again this season. In my opinion, Calvin Phillips is a player which gets them there. Forest are another side who are quite hard to try and buy for. If you look at their attacking line, there's a lot of quality. Alanga, Hudson-Odoi, Morgan Gibbs-White, Awoniyi, there is so much talent there. Defensively, I'm not so sure, and also in the midfield. Now, I like Sangare a lot in their midfield, but for me, you need a ball player next to him. How about Koopmeiners from Atalanta? Now again, this is quite an adventurous signing, but Forest have been very adventurous with their business over the past few windows. Koopmeiners is someone who would bring pure passing quality to that side, but also a little bit of magic, which sometimes you need lower down the table. Set pieces, whether that be shooting directly from free kicks, corners into the penalty area, Koopmeiners could be someone who gives you 5 or 6 goals a season purely from set pieces, a little bit like James Ward-Prowse at West Ham. I think Koopmeiners would be a really good signing for this side, improving their on-the-ball ability. Imagine his long passing to the counter-attacking threat that Nottingham Forest have. It really would be a nice little dynamic, and I would like to see this move happen. Sheffield United, again a pretty hard team to buy for. They need a striker, someone who's going to get them the goals to keep them in the league, but it can't be too expensive because they probably will get relegated. They need Premier League experience. Who is it? Danny Ings, in my opinion, would be a pretty good option. He is completely out of favour at his current club, not playing at all really, but we know that he is a good goal scorer and certainly has been a good goal scorer in the past, formerly an England international. This is a good striker who could get you the goals. He's affordable. Danny Ings to Sheffield United, again, it's probably not the most exciting piece of business you'll ever see, but it is something I would like to see happen to give Sheffield at least a chance of staying in the division. And if they don't, he hasn't cost you a ton of money, so it's not too much of a financial issue. Danny Ings, Sheffield United, someone make it happen. With Spurs, it's pretty obvious what they need. They need quality at centre-back. Injury problems there this season has really exposed the lack of depth that they have in that position, and they've been linked with a load of different centre-backs in January. But for me, the big one, the obvious one, is Todibo from Nice. His athleticism, his size, his physical prowess, his ability to cover channels, but importantly his ability on the ball would be such a good pairing with Van de Ven on the other side of the defence. Imagine trying to counter against those two in wide areas. It would be absolutely impossible. They are both physical monsters, athletes which cover so much ground. But like I said, importantly, Todibo does bring quality on the ball. He likes to play out from the back. He plays in a high volume side already. He loves to step forward into the midfield. I really think he would bring a lot to that Spurs side, and actually at a pretty affordable price. Todibo to Spurs, to me, makes so much sense. Makes so much sense. I think it's the side in the Premier League which are most suited to Todibo and his current playstyle. Get him in that Ange Postecoglou side and you could see his game go to the next level. Spurs, just go do it. When we look at this West Ham squad, there is quality all over the park. I mean, just look at that attacking unit. They are so good. However, I do see a weakness a little bit deeper in the midfield. Thomas Souček. Now, he's recently extended his contract, but for me, He just doesn't have the quality on the ball which West Ham need if they want to go to the next level. So somehow we need to replace his height, his strength and his ability to get up and down the pitch, but we need more ball quality. Youssouf Fofana of Monaco could be a really good shout. The young French midfielder is excellent physically. He's a very good ball winner, a box-to-box midfielder who can also play as a 6. Perfect play alongside Edson Alvarez in a double pivot. But like I said, importantly, he brings quality on the ball. Now, he's not your most technical, press-resistant player you're ever going to see, but I don't think that is what David Moyes wants. He wants this physical guy who can also get the ball on the floor and play. Progressive passes through the lines, long switches of play. Youssouf Fofana is your guy, and his contract is running out soon. So West Ham, this deal really could be a move which takes you to the next level. Him and Alvarez at the heart of your midfield, allowing the likes of Paqueta, Bowen, Kudus to go do the exciting work in the attack. It could be a really nice piece of business, and it's something which West Ham have to do if you ask me. Wolves have been one of the most exciting teams in the Premier League this season, and they've really been impressing considering what we were all expecting when the season first started and they had manager trouble. So it's quite difficult to look at this squad and see a clear area where they need to improve. However, I keep coming back to the centre-back position. They're doing well in that area at the moment, but players like Craig Dawson aren't the youngest in the world, they're not getting any younger, and once again they aren't getting any better. I think a really good option here could be Trevor Chalobah from Chelsea. Now currently he is injured, so you're signing a player who you're kind of waiting for a little bit, but I think he could be a really good player for this Wolves side, not just for the next 6 months, but for the next 3, 4, 5 years. I think he's a really good player and really underrated. I mean, it's not exactly the end of the world that he can't get into that Chelsea team because they have a ridiculous set of centre-backs. So don't hold it against him that he can't get into that side. In my opinion, Trevor Chalobah is still good enough to start for most Premier League teams, but of course the fact that he isn't playing brings his price tag down drastically. Wolves, Trevor Chalobah, I think this is a really good idea, something really smart, if I do say so myself, and I'd like to see Wolves go and do it. So that is that, one player for every single club in the Premier League. Some of them are expensive, some of them are cheap little bargains, some are from abroad, some are from the Premier League. Let me know which ones you agree with, which ones you think I've got completely wrong, and who you would like to see your club sign this January. Also get in the comments, let me know what you think in general, like the video, subscribe to the channel. I really want to hit 22k by the end of the month. You could make that happen. Also turn notifications on as well if you have enjoyed the video. But apart from that, we are finished for today. Those are 20 signings I would like to see happening in and around the Premier League this January. But let me know what you think. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you have enjoyed it. And as always, I'll see you in the next one.